Innovation and creativity are central to entrepreneurship. But what happens when you go beyond the edge? The Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast brings you the world's first, the disruptive, the avant-garde. We take you to the frontier in conversation with the entrepreneurs who are the forerunners of the industries of the future. Get to know their world with co-hosts Braden Kemp and Tracy Morningstar. The pecan has a deep history, one rooted in Indigenous cultures. The word pecan is of Algonquin origin. It means nuts that need cracking. Today, the pecan is being rediscovered, and at the forefront of this era is Anthony Wingham, co-founder of Nuez Acres.
We're happy to be here for another episode of the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast. I'm here with Braden Kemp. Hello, Braden.
Hey, Tracy.
Today we are talking with Anthony Wingham. His business is Nuez Acres. It's very nice to talk with you once again, Anthony, and welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thank you.
Can you share your story and journey behind the creation of Nuez Acres?
Well, it's definitely a story and journey. Tracy, you played a little bit of a part in that too. So, Nuez Acres itself kind of was born out of the pandemic, I guess you could say. So, we began the business through a bunch of programs that were offered through government. This is when Zoom kind of first started. So digital marketing, that was the first time that we kind of stepped into some of these courses. So through digital marketing supports with CCAB, we've been really able to expand and grow a business with this Indigenous idea. So the idea came from the price of pecans. It collapsed. There was a trade war between USA and China. And my wife's family are pecan farmers down in Mexico. So seeing kind of firsthand the impact of the price war on a lot of the communities, the state where Nancy's family is from, the biggest commodity is pecans. So that price really impacted them. So when we were down there, we just started to think of different things and started looking at some of the nutrients that were inside of the pecans. And that's where we found a lot of the beauty industry's best kept secrets, vitamin E, oleic acid. And then we really started to create our skincare and hair care products. And then, as I said, COVID hit. So we were kind of in the process of trying to sell a product without being able to be face to face. And then we kind of digitized our business and really kind of had going from there. We really launched in a lot of the smaller retails. And then as COVID kind of opened up, we launched in Walmart Canada. And we had a little bit of success in the United States and looking to launch in a bigger partner probably come fall. So a little bit of success so far.
Nice. Can you elaborate on your insights into pecans, including how you acquired the knowledge of the characteristics and potential uses of the pecans?
Yeah, no, it's really kind of interesting when people find us and say, "Oh, pecans, I've only had pecan pie before." Or so it's when we try to even market it as a skincare, it was such a jump from eating the nut to applying the nut on our face. So really looking at the test, any kind of information that was on, the internet, there was really nothing for skincare. So really we looked at what the nut was used for eating. It's used as a cooking oil down in the United States. If you look at some of the traditional knowledge of Indigenous nations, it's actually in our stories. Our stories start that we found these trees, these pecans. So it's actually one of the only traditional Indigenous nuts to North America. So just finding all this knowledge, that's actually in the book by Dr. Robert Kimmel called Braiding Sweetgrass. And just looking at that traditional aspect of the product. If you look at that, the traditional name is pecan, which means use the stone to crack the nut. And that's the traditional way that it was described up in the Great Lakes, Ontario, down through Chicago, all the way down into Mexico. And then with colonization, the French took the pecan, they started to cultivize it, they called the pecan, and now United States has become one of the biggest producers of the pecan. So I just say that part about the insights because originally it was an Indigenous currency. So you can look back all the way with the presidents. They would buy pecan trees and trade and barter with the First Nations. So that traditional use of the product was lost over time. So when we started looking at it and what was in it, we realized that it's actually part of this decolonization story as well, reclaiming the pecan to some of its original heritage, and then really looking at, okay, well, there's vitamin E, there's oleic acid, like I mentioned, which if you look at some of the biggest beauty products now, that's what they're using. So just looking at the food tests, seeing the minerals that were in it, looking at what was used in skincare now, and then just using that as another base for formalizations that we then added other kind of benefits for skin, for hair, like jojoba oil, some rosehip oil, and really started creating these clean products for our customers.
It's a really interesting background, Anthony. So thank you for that. Your branding talks about seed to skin. Can you take us through the process of turning what I assume is a box or a carton of pecans into finished cosmetic goods?
Yeah, no, actually that story starts probably about 14 years ago when my father-in-law, side note, I probably am the best son-in-law for creating this company with his daughter, but so he started planting pecan trees. And with pecan trees, it's not like you plant it and the pecans grow the next year. It's about 6 to 7 years before you start actually producing. So this idea started back that time with her dad planting the trees. And then it started getting to the point where it, cracking nuts, selling the product. And then, that's where it starts, is in a farm in Chihuahua. The product is growing, even if you think about Mexico, the water usage, it's used with the natural aquifer, so they're not pumping any water in there. So even at the very beginning stage of the company, that care and sustainability mission begins. So pecans are produced every single year. So they grow, they come down, they fall off the tree. It's kind of interesting. Pecans are actually not a nut; they are a fruit. So when they do fall off the tree, they're covered in a green husk. So we have some Tarahumara tribe members. Those are that's the First Nations or Indigenous tribes out of Mexico, and they actually dehusk the pecan. So that's the next step. It comes off the tree. The Tarahumara group, they dehusk it, and then you get that actual shell, the nut, and then it dries, it cures, and then they're able to crack the shell. So this is still all happening down in Mexico. And then once the shell is cracked, then the pecans come up into Canada. That process of cracking the shell instead of shipping a full nut, it actually helps the process of getting that product into Canada with a lot less red tape and regulation because you don't have the whole nut. So once we get that seed into Canada, we then process all of it into oil in Langley, BC. And then we take that oil as our base, and then we create our skincare and hair care from there.
Are there competitors that have also figured out the benefits of this particular oil in the space, or no?
No, there's that's kind of one of the, I guess, benefits of our brand right now is we are Canada's only Indigenous pecan oil producer. We're one of the only, we are Canada's only Indigenous pecan oil brand. There are a few companies down in Texas. Of course, Texas is a huge pecan. I mean, if there was a Texan listening to this, they'd probably be rolling over because it's called pecan down there. So there is a market down there, but there's not a lot of tests. There's not a lot of research about it. So when you start looking at pecan oil for beauty, pecan oil for skincare, you're going to see a lot of our Nuez Acres stuff come up because we're really pioneering this idea of taking this agricultural product, this food, and transferring it into this beauty product, this beauty idea, which is, it's not just creating a beauty product. The idea is to actually revolutionize the beauty industry with that waterless aspect by helping, remove the water from the beauty industry by not having to use a water-based formalization.
How did water conservation enter into the conversation?
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting story. I think when we were trying to figure out how we could market ourselves, we started looking around and this word anhydrous came up. And I guess over in Korea, it's a big idea, this water-free beauty and this idea of not adding that water because most of the times it's just to add preservatives in it. A lot of times it's just to dilute it and bring it down. So when we realized that we're not adding water to it, it wasn't, okay, let's make a product that's water-free. It's let's make a product. Let's try to sell these pecans for a better price for our father-in-law. And then as we morphed this brand, then we started realizing, wait a minute, we have this water-free product that not only can we do it for skin, but we can do it for hair. We've done it with lip balm. We've done it with body sticks. We're just about to create a moisturizing lotion. So really, it didn't start as this water-free idea, but we've just had such a support behind us that we've been able to continually create and produce these products that they're already in the market, but they are full of water. They are full of chemicals, and they're just really, they are a dirty product. And with the consumer kind of waking up, realizing what's in products, reading the back of ingredients, and then even with government, if we look down the United States, definitely the Washington State area, they're actually making regulation to remove a lot of the chemicals that are in some of the beauty products now. So this waterless movement is really kind of ahead of the wave, but you can start to see a lot of businesses starting to talk about it. I mean, if you look at Calgary, the last couple of weeks, the headings with the water main line in BC, they're already talking about drought. So that this water-free, waterless idea is really going to start to come to the forefront, I think, in the next couple of years.
A lot of the ingredients that you see in cosmetics are water soluble. Does that create some issues for product formulation for you?
Yes. One of the biggest, the best ingredient out there right now is vitamin C. So for us to compete on this market with Sephora brands, with L'Oreal brands, to have a vitamin C option, it wasn't able to go into an oil. So there is, we do kind of put ourselves into kind of a corner because we don't want to use water. So a lot of the formulations that we do make have to be based on an oil-based product. But we've been able to look at other ingredients and other natural products. You know, for the vitamin C, we looked at a mango. In mango butter, there's a high dosage of vitamin C. We're able to blend that with our oil, our pecan oil, and make a hydro bomb. So it is a bit challenging. You know, some of the ingredients, some of the products we're not able to really make because of not using water in it. The costs as well, you know, making a 150 milliliter body lotion that most of the products on the market now are 80% water, and we're trying to offer 100% purity product. That price point is still difficult to work with, but you know, we're still sticking by our water-free mission, and I think that we can have a lot of impact on maybe some of those low-hanging fruit items compared to those vitamin C's and hydrochloric acids and stuff like that.
Do either you or your wife have a background in chemistry, science? Like, where does this product formulation come from?
This is all, it's all about just bootstrapping and kind of looking at what opportunities that have been available. Looking at, you know, if we found a hair serum that we wanted and looked at a lot of different formulations, and a lot of them would have maybe an almond oil as their main base of formula, just looking at that and replacing that main base with the pecan and then tweaking it around there. And then just a lot of our work has been spent at those local markets, going out on the weekends, face to face, you know, hearing the feedback, having people test it. And now we're just actually through CCAB and BASF, we won a boot camp through Polytech Science, and we're able to create this actually formulated product by some lab students. So that's kind of where we're stepping it up to next, is that real formulated dermatology suggested product that's gonna kind of take that mom and pop story into that next level.
Yeah, very cool. I love the story of just, you know, figuring it out because you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're actually, both of us, our backgrounds, we both worked at White Spot as servers, and then I did a little bit of PAL setting, but really that's about it as far as, so we're heavy in customer service. So we're able to hear the customer, but no formulas, no white coats or lab coats for us.
Now that you're going to hopefully have the ingredients of your product and working through BAS, will that allow you to enter into more markets, or businesses like Walmart or Shoppers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The conversations have gone from, okay, how can we create this, skincare product or hair care product, to how can we potentially supply L'Oreal with, a main pecan ingredient, or how can we even be supplying base sap? We're having conversations with, customers from the United States that are now seeing the work that we've done with pecan oil as this beauty formula, and they're starting to have conversations with us. So we're just in the process of figuring out, is the value of return more for just producing a wholesale pecan oil compared to creating the label, creating the bottle, creating all the ingredients, carrying that whole thing? And would we have a greater impact for this water-free movement, if we're in some bigger distributor's pocket and supplying that way? And then even like just touching base with the wholesalers and Walmarts, then, even down in Targets and that, getting into these, programs like with Polytech and being able to actually produce something that's formalized and have these dermatology results, that's really what's kind of kept us out of a lot of conversations. So I think that's really what that next step in that evolution of our business is, working with those more reputable sources, those technology or the colleges that can really run the pecan through their beauty machines. They can pick out all these nutrients and really give a price point for what a beauty product would be compared to what a pecan farmer down in Mexico is selling just that nut for. And that really brings us back to the whole beginning idea of getting, Nancy's dad, my father-in-law, the people of Chihuahua, even the people that sell pecans, a better price point for the nut compared to that wholesale idea where people are coming and buying in tons. The cost is super low because it's just being taken back and, refined, where now they have an opportunity where they can sell it to a company that's selling it for beauty, and that price point's kind of trickling down and really going back to community and building that capacity for them.
You mentioned the retailers a couple times there. How are these retail channels responding to the sustainability and the water-free angle? I assume that's helping you get shelf space?
Absolutely. Those are some of the biggest check boxes right now. And it's not just the surface. They're really looking at how deep does it actually go. It's one thing to say that you're sustainable, but then, you're ordering everything from overseas or something like that. So it's not just checking a box. They're bringing you in. They're having conversations. They're listening to the stories and actually hearing how you're sustainable. Another big thing is being a woman-led business. That's really big, especially down in the States. If you can get that accreditation, a lot of the conversations that my partner has been able to have are with women. So a lot of the people that are at the table that are saying yes or no that you're going to have shelf space, it's really coming down to conversations with these, incredible women and making sure that when you're saying you're sustainable, or when you're saying you're women led, or you're on this mission, that you're not just saying it, you're actually walking it. So I think it's very important to not just say that you're sustainable or say we're water free, but actually show it. And just like when you asked about the products, there's people that want us to make all these crazy products, but it would involve adding water, and that would go against our brand. It would go against what a lot of these big retailers have brought us into to be able to represent. So, it's definitely, it's really important to try to have those aspects, but not just checking the box, actually seeing what that diverse sustainability looks, all the way down to how you even throw your garbage out. Are you recycling at your business at that level, or are you just throwing it all into one bag?
I have some experience in taking a direct-to-consumer brand to retail with a company that I founded in the past. So something caught my eye when I was checking out your retail partners, and that's Walmart. And how did you line up distribution at Walmart as a new brand?
That's actually I can't sit here and take any credit for it, because my wife has been phenomenal. My partner, Nancy, she's really led that drive. She's really the leader of the sales. One of the biggest things we did do was go to rangeme.com. So this is really the platform that you're able to be put in front of all of those big brands, Walgreens, Sephora, brands over in Europe. And it's you put your brand on there, you say what you can offer, and then these big brands are able to come to you. They're able to say if they want meetings with you. There's different kinds of webinars, programs that they're able to attend that are really focused on that buying part. And then just having that story. So, Nancy being able to say, we're not just creating skincare and hair care from somebody else's pecans. We're actually growing the pecans in Mexico. We're importing them into Canada. We're actually producing it right from seed to skin. And that was really how, having the story, being woman-led. It was also 2020. So Indigenous-led businesses, Indigenous-owned businesses was the cowbell everybody was ringing. So that's really a lot of luck lined up to get in there. But then also having the story, putting Nancy in a position where she's leading the company as a woman. She's having the conversations with other women. It's really this collaborative mindset, not this competition mindset. So I think that's really what just having the right person in the right place, being at the right time, and then also embracing that technology. So, I say that we're on range, meaning we're able to be seen in front of these big businesses, but that also means we needed to be on social media. We needed to have a presence. So when they went to look there, okay, they do have some sort of presence authority there. We needed to do work with our SEO for Google so that when they looked us up for Nuez Acres on Google, we would be somewhere on page 1 or 2, not 100. So it's a lot more than just getting that interview. It's also a lot of behind the scene work, making sure even with our own personal website, direct to consumer, we've really worked on reviews, making sure that our customers put reviews on there so that when anybody came, there was just that social proof that, oh, wow, yeah, pecans are more for than just pecan pie.
Awesome. Very cool.
I see your company a lot on social media. I'm always very happy when I see a successful Indigenous business being looked at with so much success. Are there other Indigenous businesses that are seeing success globally? And are you communicating with any of those businesses?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of successful Indigenous businesses in the beauty industry itself. There's a core group of us. So there's a lot of organizations, CCIB, Futurepreneur, so you could just name them all, but it's kind of created this place where a lot of these brands kind of come together, even trade missions. So there's a handful of us, Satea, Yukon Soaps, Out the Hill and Loken, Cheekbone Beauty, who else? There's so many, Skawalachat, I probably pronounced that wrong, but we've all had this success that we've all shared, and we've all gone on different trade missions together. We've all sat in different conferences at different forums, and we've shared ideas. We've been in the crowd while other people are up on panels sharing, what their successes are with Export Canada, what their successes are with, going out into different countries. So I think there's a lot of success, but I think it's a lot of bootstrap success, a lot of success that there's not a lot of real funding for it. A lot of times, we go to pitch competitions and we're going up against an app or some drug that's going to cure Alzheimer's. So there's not really a lot of, funding or support for these kind of, especially the beauty side of it. But I think that a lot of the programs that have really come out over the last couple of years have really started to turn that lens towards, especially Indigenous peoples, really understanding that we do create things. We're really more of those product-based peoples, and a lot of support, like even with that base up and the boot camp, that focus program really brought a lot of us. There's even Tribulaire. So there were so many Lodge Like Candles that we are all able to come together and be part of this boot camp and really excel. So, there's definitely a handful of us, and I think it continually grows. They start to see the success of these other brands. They're able to see themselves in it. A lot of us have laid kind of a path, a lot of the breadcrumbs, this is the funding for here. These are the supports here. This is kind of what worked for us, and really I know with our brand, we do look back and try to help bring everybody up. And just like with Range Me, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest secrets out there that is it's literally out there, but a lot of people just don't know about it.
Yeah, very cool. You mentioned the bootstrapping a few times.
Yeah.
How do you navigate the hyper competitive sort of big money landscape of the beauty industry, presumably without that multi-tens of millions of dollars marketing budget?
Well, yeah, I think Tracy kind of mentioned it right there a couple of minutes ago about the social media and just being present, using as many free avenues, free channels that we can, podcasts like this, any opportunity that I've been given to be able to speak about our company, a lot of seminars, even when I go into like an export navigator seminar where we're learning about how to trade with the USA, I'll make sure that my logo is in the background. Most of the time I'll have my name proper, just kind of using all these avenues that I can to market. But you're right with, competing with like a Sephora or a Fenty Beauty that has a multi-million-dollar budget every quarter, to try to compete in that was really not available. So that's where we really looked at our community, going out to these local markets, going out to local events, selling face to face, really trying to build that grassroots community up. Because that also, if we talk about Shopify with our online store, those sales allowed us to be able to access funds to get loans and stuff like that. And then growing it from there, keep going out to the markets, doing bigger events, got us more traction, more sales. And then we were able to access some of the Indigenous funding and grants that we were able to have support with. So it's been a lot of, bootstrapping and a lot of just trial and error. And, especially with not having access to a lot of funding, the conversations that we go to have, we want to make sure that they're not costly. So a lot of times, like even when we were talking about, do you guys like have any formalization background? Do you is there any kind of background on that? We didn't have any, and we didn't really have the money to do it. So a lot of the stuff has just been kind of going with it. And then with with the economy, the way it's been the last couple of years with increase in interest rates, being a bootstrap company, having a lot of that personal debt, you're now starting to see those interest payments kind of come up a little bit more. So with the interest rising, consumers obviously not buying as much, they're choosing between eating food or putting skincare on, we sometimes are not that first choice. So, it's been an interesting last 5 years of really those highs of COVID where everybody was spending money, a lot of investment in business to those, okay, now there's this lull, a new government possibly coming up. What's going on with spending? How is the consumer? So trying to navigate this business where you are bootstrapping, I mean, it's kind of a little bit difficult. Yeah.
I think that's a great illustration of just a little bit of what's going on inside the mind of an entrepreneur on any given day.
Yeah, no.
Your experience traveling to China exposed you to diverse cultures and business methodologies, those interactions with global suppliers, and you talked about negotiating business deals. I'm interested in further understanding how this experience expanded your views on international trade and being part of that global market. Is that where you see your future niche being?
Yeah, and going out of country, out of province I would give that advice to anybody. Just really seeing, what's going on in a different country, a different part of the world. Their sun is coming up when our sun is going down. So just that reality that, there's a whole different world, a whole different market out there, just really is an eye opener. Going over to Guangzhou, we went to the Canton Fair. So the Canton Fair is the largest fair where you can go there and you can find anything you want to import, export. There's people that are offering, services for trade and all that stuff. So that was really mine and my partner's first experience going over there. We hadn't even thought about Nuez Acres at this point. We actually, we went over there and we brought back lice bands over these hair bands that had this stuff on it to stop lice. So that was kind of the first look at importing a product and bringing it into Canada and then dealing with regulation. But that was, experiencing that really opened up the reality to myself that, okay, this is possible. When you think about trade, you think about international trade, sometimes you're like, oh, it's really costly. Everything's going to go bad. You always see these videos of ships that have sunk in the water or packages that don't show up. But, really going through it and realizing that, your first order isn't always have to be a multi-million-dollar order. You can start small. I did a program actually that I won through a pitch competition with CCIB and EY. And it really went down to talk and explained about instead of, changing the whole direction of your company, just doing these little pivots. And that's what I really, give advice. If you are looking at international trade, is starting a little bit small. If you are going to meet a big distributor and you're thinking about bringing thousands of units in that you're going to have your label printed on, maybe start off by doing a test run because you might mess up the writing on something. And that's something that will not, you cannot return that. That's a contract. So, and then that trip really brought me, when we came back, we started looking at North America. How can we look at different trade missions in North America, and realizing that Langley and Washington State are so close and it's just a drive away. So it really, that trip to Guangzhou, to China, really started to light this idea of what trade could look like, what importing and exporting can look like, and really trying to bring that traditional Indigenous heritage to it, also that women-led movement as well.
It sounds like you took that trip before this company or this brand was even conceived. Were you working on starting a different business or just trying to learn, or what was the genesis?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because it was actually right before the tensions between China and Canada with those two Michaels happened. So we were over there. It was just the idea was to go to Canton Fair and just kind of see what it was all about. It was kind of an opportunity to just go and see where a lot of the products that we have in Canada are coming from. Amazon had just started at that point. This idea of drop shipping had just begun. So realizing that, a lot of stuff that's coming in is coming from China, trying to head off those Alibaba, middlemen that, you can get the product a lot cheaper going directly to it. So that was just kind of the idea. And then we, a personal life, my wife and I had just had a child as well. So it was kind of a mini vacation as well. So we kind of packed up and went there for about 10 days and just walked around and really explored everything, looked at different things that are made in China that are sold in Canada, and seeing what we could potentially import and have conversations with and kind of go from there.
Interesting. Yeah, lots of opportunities in that space for sure.
Yeah.
Talking to you today, your Indigenous roots are very important to you. When asked, what does the concept of frontier entrepreneurship mean to you? You had said that frontier entrepreneurship means venturing into new uncharted territories with innovative ideals and the courage to take risks. It's about pushing boundaries, creating opportunities, and driving change in ways that can have a significant impact on society and the economy. Making that impact on society and contributing to the economy is very important to Indigenous peoples. How have you been giving back to your own community?
Yeah, I've been extremely blessed with a lot of the opportunities that I've taken. A lot of these speaking opportunities have really led me to be able to sit on boards, to be in programs like Connected North. That was actually connected through CCIB as well, where I'm able to not only go to communities in British Columbia and speak with students, tell about my entrepreneurial story, talk about Nuez Acres, speak about how, using that two lens being, the Indigenous and that Western, and really creating a business that is sustainable. So being able to go to these schools in Nunavut, in Bella Bella, in Northern Canada, and really bring attention to these youth and show them that there is a possibility to become something. But then also, sitting on the board with NACA, National Aboriginal Canada Capital Association. I sit on the Indigenous Youth Business Advisory Council, and we are able to go to these panels, these conferences, and really bring up these real ideas that, reconciliation and these investments are not happening in Northern Canada. We have Indigenous businesses and companies that start up in La Ronge, Saskatchewan, and we talk about costs in a program, and then, their shipping's $40 or they don't have access to internet. So really, giving back to community by bringing the awareness of these things that are lacking for Indigenous businesses, these opportunities where, we bring the best and brightest minds from Northern Canada to come to Toronto or Vancouver, to come to these incubators and then create these tech or these businesses that stay in Toronto and they stay in Vancouver, and those dollars and everything in the investment is staying in these big urban areas where they need to be able to stay in that rural area, but that infrastructure, if you look at the price of food and stuff like that, it's just skyrocketed. So to be able to survive up there, it's just not a reality. So that's where part of my giving back to community is also being able to use those platforms to raise awareness. Not always using my brand or my mission to sell my product as the main idea of what I want to talk about, but really bringing to attention that, yes, I have success as Nuez Acres. We've had success with a lot of government programs, but it's because of I'm in Vancouver based. I'm able to ship a product for $14 all across Canada, but my competitor, let's say Yukon Soap, who's up in the Yukon, she's shipping a beard oil, she's paying $25. So really bringing that awareness is part of my giving back. And then just most recently with all the programs and all the mentoring that I've been given, I've stepped up into my own local community as my local Métis president. So really being able to take a community of 800 people under my wing and use a lot of these programs, a lot of the mentoring, everything that's really been given and built the capacity in me to now build the capacity of the community that I'm in. So I've really tried to give back as much as I can.
Thank you very much for that, Anthony. This is the good place to close the podcast. And I just want to thank you for joining us here today. And I also just wanted to say, my brother uses your beard oil. Absolutely loves it. I just wanted to say that. But once again, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Braden and Tracy.
Thanks, Anthony. It's great to chat with you.
We'll be right back after this short break.
The Canadian Council for Indigenous Business builds bridges between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, businesses, and communities. Head to ccib.com to help build a new economy based on mutual respect and shared prosperity.
We return to the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast with co-hosts Braden Kemp and Tracy Morningstar.
What I enjoyed about the conversation with Anthony and Nuez Acres today was that he really believes in sticking to the original concept of staying with using a waterless beauty product, even at the heels of becoming, more profitable.
Yeah, it's interesting and kind of contrarian in an industry where we heard Anthony talk about it. A lot of the products are 80+% water. And that causes an environmental impact, not only from the water use, but also just shipping that weight all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Cargo planes and ocean liners and delivery trucks, all full of what essentially is mostly water, is not good for any of us. So, I really admire Anthony and his wife's commitment to that stance.
Mm-hmm. And believing that there is a future in waterless beauty products, which is, in his mind, the new frontier of cosmetics.
Absolutely. And not just believing it, but also convincing, big retail players like Walmart that they're onto something is not an easy thing to do. So, great to see that not only these newer brands taking that sustainability seriously, but also the big players like Walmart starting to think about it.
Absolutely. I would just like to thank Anthony for joining us and Braden for another great discussion. Thank you for listening, and join us again for another episode of the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast.
Next time on the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast, we're joined by Brad McKay, founder and CEO of Meals on the Move, a new wave food services microfactory. This edition of the Frontier Entrepreneurship Podcast was made possible with the support of FedDev Ontario and the Government of Canada. The executive producer is Robert Washburn. I'm John Hayden. To find out more, head to our website, nventure.ca. Thanks for listening.